Welcome back. In this video I show you how to write your first class in BBJ. We introduce object orientation and object-oriented syntax of BBJ. So we're going to start with our IDE. I right-click on my project and create an empty source file. As an example, we write a class that represents a car. So I call it car BBJ. In BBJ, classes are marked by the keyword class and terminated by class end. So the syntax for a class would be class public car, and we have to close with class end. Now let's add a field to our class. BBJ has the usual modifiers, as you know from Java and other languages, public, protected, and private. And they mean what they mean in these other languages. So let's start adding a public field. Field public, and we add a BBJ string color $. So I made this field public. By doing so, BBJ will automatically generate getters and setters for me. Now I start using the class. I can start instantiating the class with starting a variable, my car, exclamation mark. Remember from the last video, the exclamation mark indicates that we're dealing with an object, equals new car. So you see this is pretty similar to Java. What we can do now is we can use setters and getters for the color. But before we do that, I will declare the class. So as we have already learned in the video about variables, I can use the declare verb, the type, in order to get code completion. So you see now BBJ proposes a setter and a getter for the color. Set color red. So far so good. Let's introduce another field, and this time we make the field private. Let's make it a number, and let's call it price. Oh, missed the B. So this time the field is private, which means we cannot access it from the outside. So we introduce our custom setters and getters. Method public void set price, and then I close the method with method end. And the syntax to access a field of the class within the class is to start with a pound sign. And you see here inside the class I get code completion. And the explicit way of doing that would be the this exclamation mark, which is always accessing the class instance itself. There's also a super for later, but here in this time there's a this, and there we can do a set price, and then code completion is so nice to add the variable for me. So the short for this would be pound sign set price. And what we could also have done is we could have said pound sign price equals price. So now we can add another line here, and we make it a car that will cost 15,500 currency units. Now let's add another method, and that method should return a string. So we want to add a method which we call toString, method public BBJ string toString, and we have to close the method again. And now this one is expected to return a string. So we say method ret to return something. So the keyword to return something from a class is called method ret. And here, what do we want to return? we do a string to say you have a plus color car which costs plus str of price. So now we can use this method to say print my car exclamation mark dot toString. Now let's run this program. And as expected, we see a line, you have a red car which costs 15,500. So those of you familiar with Java may recognize the toString method signature. What happens if I just say print my car? You see that the toString method is also executed when I just do the print on the class itself. Why is that? The reason for that is that the toString is inherited from Java's object implementation. So what we did here is we basically did override the method to give it a custom string representation. Let's close our window and talk for a moment about inheritance. So you saw that with the toString, we did override the toString method signature of the Java object, which is underneath car. But now we can override the car class with some additional custom class. So we start again with class public flying car, and we say extends car. So it's the extends keyword that tells BBJ that you want to extend the car class. Again, we need the class end. And let's do something like the flying car gets a new field, which we may call altitude. So field public BBJ number max altitude. And we give this time the max altitude a default of 3,000 feet. So you see, with the field, you can, like in Java, give any variable an initial value. So now let's create an instance of my fancy car. Let's first declare it. And now we say my fancy car is a new flying car. And then we can, like we did before with the car, we can simply go ahead and give it a color and a price. So this time we're making it way more expensive and we give it a green color. And in addition to the price and the color, we now have in the fancy class the additional variable of the max altitude. Let's give it a max altitude of 30,000 feet and then see what happens when we print it. Oh, there's still a typo. You see that it was executing the toString method of the car class, which we implemented before. So now we want to override that method. I copy the method and then we say super toString plus it's a flying car which can climb to plus string of max altitude feet. So you see, now we have implemented our first two classes. One inherits from the other. And yeah, now it's about time to try yourself.